The thermostat in my truck read 41 degrees when I pulled into the driveway that Thursday night. February in central Ohio does that. Gives you a week of false warmth and then reminds you it's still winter. I remember the temperature because I remember everything about that night. The way the porch light was off. The way my brother's truck was parked half on the grass like he always did. Never fully in the driveway, like he couldn't be bothered to pull in straight. I'd been working a site in Columbus for 11 months at that point. Structural retrofitting on a 12-story office building, the kind of contract that pays well and takes everything you have. My company, 3 guys I'd built from nothing over 15 years, had landed it after losing 2 bids in a row. I was 43 years old and I told my wife this job was going to set us up for a long time. She said she understood. She said she was proud of me. I left Monday mornings at 5 and came home Friday evenings, sometimes Saturday mornings if the week ran long. My brother lived 20 minutes away. He'd been between jobs since October, laid off from a logistics company, said he was figuring things out. Our mother asked me to check in on him. I told her I would, but honestly I was barely keeping my own head above water. So when he started coming around to the house while I was gone, I thought it was a good thing. My wife mentioned it casually. Your brother stopped by again. We had dinner. He's doing better. I was grateful. I was relieved. I never once questioned it. The Columbus site shut down unexpectedly on a Wednesday. Permit issue, city inspector found a discrepancy in the load-bearing calculations on floors 7 through 9. Not our fault, but our problem. The whole crew was sent home while the engineers sorted it out. My foreman called me at 2 in the afternoon and told me to take a few days. I drove home. It's 94 miles from the Columbus site to my front door. I've driven it hundreds of times. I know every exit, every gas station, every stretch where the highway opens up and you can actually breathe. That Wednesday I drove it without music. I don't know why. I just didn't turn anything on. I pulled into the driveway at 4:40 in the afternoon. My wife's car was there. My brother's truck was there, parked the same crooked way it always was. I figured they were just hanging out, maybe watching something, talking. I wasn't suspicious. I want to be honest about that because it matters. I walked into my own house with no armor on. I was just a tired man coming home early, thinking about whether there was anything in the fridge worth eating. The front door was unlocked. I walked into the kitchen. 2 wine glasses on the counter, both used. A bottle on the table. A Barolo I'd bought in 2019, the year my wife and I got married. I'd been saving it. She knew I'd been saving it. I'd mentioned it maybe a dozen times over the years. We'll open that one for something special. I stood there looking at it for probably 10 seconds. The bottle was 3/4 empty. I heard them before I got to the hallway. I won't describe what I heard. I don't need to. I'll just say that I stood in my kitchen for another minute, very still, and something happened in my chest that I still don't have a word for. It wasn't rage, not at first. It was closer to the feeling you get when you're up on a scaffold and a board shifts under your foot, that single second where your body understands something before your mind catches up. I left. I walked out the front door, got in my truck, and drove to a diner 6 miles away. I sat in a booth and ordered coffee I didn't drink, and I stared at the table for a long time. The waitress came by twice and asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. I left her a $20 on a $4 check and drove to a hardware store. I bought a small digital recorder, the kind people use for lectures. $42. Then I drove back home. My brother's truck was gone when I returned. My wife was in the kitchen, the wine glasses washed and upside down on the drying rack, the Barolo bottle already in the recycling bin. She'd changed clothes. She had the TV on in the other room, some home renovation show, and when she heard me come in, she called out from the living room like nothing had happened. "Hey, you're home early." I stood in the kitchen doorway. She was on the couch, hair still slightly damp, feet pulled up under her. She looked over at me and smiled. I watched her face. There was a half second, less than that, a fraction, where something moved across her expression. Then it was gone. "So I got shut down," I said. "Permit thing. Got sent home." "Oh no, that's frustrating." She patted the cushion next to her. "Come sit." I sat. We watched 40 minutes of television together. She fell asleep against my shoulder. I stared at the screen and didn't process a single image on it. That night, after she was asleep, I placed the recorder in the living room, behind a row of books on the lower shelf, the ones we never touched, the ones that had been there since we moved in. I set it to voice activated. Then I went to bed and lay there until 4 in the morning, looking at the ceiling. Over the next 2 weeks, while I was back in Columbus, I learned things I couldn't unlearn. The recorder caught 12 separate conversations. Most were ordinary. My wife on the phone with her mother, a call about a dentist appointment, her singing to herself while she cooked. But 4 of them were not ordinary. 3 were conversations with my brother, there in the house again while I was away. 1 was a phone call. My brother's voice, relaxed and familiar in a way that made my skin crawl because I recognized it. That's how he sounds when he's comfortable. That's how he sounds at Christmas dinner. She doesn't know you like I do. She just knows the version you show her. The guy who's always working. My wife, quieter. That's not fair. My brother, I'm not trying to be unfair. I'm just saying what's true. The phone call was her talking to a friend I'd met twice. She said she didn't know how it had gotten this far. She said she loved me, but it was complicated. She said my brother made her feel seen, which is a word I've heard before in these kinds of stories and never fully understood until I heard it applied to my own life, in my own house, in a recording I made myself. I listened to all of it twice. Then I called my attorney. Her name is someone I've known since I was 27. She handled my business and corporation, both of them, and she is the most precise person I've ever met. I told her everything in about 15 minutes. She was quiet for a moment and then she said, "Okay, don't change anything yet. Don't confront anyone. I need you to keep going to work, keep coming home on Fridays, keep acting normal." I asked her for how long. She said, 3 weeks, maybe 4. I said, "Okay, I need to tell you about the house. We bought it in 2017, 2 years before we got married. It needed everything. New roof, new electrical, foundation work on the east side that took 8 months because I did most of it myself on weekends. The floors in the main bedroom are reclaimed white oak. I found them at a salvage yard in Zanesville, drove them back in my pickup, spent 4 weekends laying them down myself. My wife used to say that floor was her favorite thing in the world. My brother knew every inch of that house. He'd helped me with the electrical. He'd been there for the foundation pour. He'd been at our wedding, standing 6 feet from me when I made promises I meant completely. When I think about which detail destroyed me the most, and I've thought about it a lot, it's not the Barolo, it's the floor. He knew what that floor cost me, not in money, in time, in weekends, in the specific kind of love that shows up at 7 in the morning with a flooring nailer and keeps going until dark. He knew all of that. He was there for it. And he still walked across it like it was nothing. The conversation with our father happened on a Sunday. I had driven over there, not to tell him everything, just to feel him out. To see. He's 71, retired, lives in the house I grew up in. My brother is his younger son and always has been, in the way that some parents have a younger child who remains soft-edged and protected, long after they should have grown out of it. I told him there were some problems at home. I was vague. He asked what kind of problems. I said my brother had been spending a lot of time at the house while I was away for work. I watched my father's face. He looked down at the table. He said, "You're away a lot, son." I waited. He said, "I'm not saying it's right, but a man who's gone Monday through Friday for almost a year, that puts a strain on things. Your mother and I talked about it. We were worried about her. About both of you." I said, "So you knew?" He said, "I didn't know anything specific." I said, "But you had an idea." He didn't answer. I sat with that for a moment. My father, who taught me how to frame a wall, how to read a blueprint, how to show up, was sitting across from me telling me, in the careful language of a man who doesn't want to say the hard thing out loud, that he thought my absence had made it understandable, that I had somehow earned this. I said, I was working to build something for us. That's what I was doing. He said, "I know." I said, "I need you to understand that nothing about that is an explanation." He didn't say anything else. I drove home. My attorney called me the following Tuesday. She had everything she needed. The house was in my name. I had purchased it before we were married, and while Ohio recognizes marital interest in separately held property, the specific structure of our finances and the prenuptial agreement we had signed, her suggestion, not mine, something I had initially pushed back on, meant my position was strong. The business was entirely in my name. The accounts I had maintained before the marriage remained separate. She told me what to do and when to do it. I followed her instructions exactly. I came home that Friday like any other Friday. My wife had made dinner. We ate. We talked about small things. After dinner, she went upstairs to shower. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop and transferred every document my attorney had flagged into a secure folder. Then I sent her a 3-word text, "Ready when you are." On Monday morning, my wife came downstairs and found a manila envelope on the kitchen table, her name on the front. Inside, the divorce petition, already filed, a letter from my attorney outlining the asset division, and a short note from me, handwritten, 4 sentences. I know it happened. I know how long it happened. I'm not interested in an explanation. The house is mine. She called me 11 times that day. I let each call go to voicemail. My attorney handled everything after that. My brother texted me 2 days later. "We need to talk." I read it and put my phone down. He texted again that evening. "I know you're angry. I'm sorry. Can we please talk?" I thought about what to write back. I thought about it for a long time. Not because I was uncertain, but because I wanted to get it right. I wanted to say exactly what I meant and nothing more. I wrote, "I'm not angry. I'm just done. Don't contact me again." He called once after that. I didn't answer. He hasn't tried since. My father called me 3 weeks later. He sounded older on the phone than I remembered. He said he'd been thinking about what I said. He said he was sorry for how he'd responded, that he had been trying to protect my brother the way he always had, and he hadn't thought about what that meant for me in that moment. He said he was wrong. I said, "I know you are." He said, "Are we okay?" I said, "I don't know yet. Give me some time." He said, "Okay." We hung up. I think we'll get there eventually. My father is not a bad man. He's a man who made a mistake because an old habit kicked in at the wrong moment. That's a different thing. I haven't fully sorted out the difference yet, but I'm working on it. The divorce was finalized 7 months later. The house is mine. My business finished the Columbus project. We came back in after the permit issue cleared, finished the job, got paid. I have a new contract in Dayton starting in the spring. Smaller scope, easier schedule. I negotiated the terms myself, specifically so I'm home more nights than not. I put new floors in the 2nd bedroom last fall. Different wood this time. Douglas fir. Tighter grain, lighter color. I did it myself again. Same way I always do. Because that's the kind of work I understand. You show up, you measure carefully, you do it right the first time, and at the end you have something solid to stand on. The Barolo. I ordered 2 more bottles. Same vintage, different year. They're in the wine rack in the kitchen. I'm not saving them for anything special. I'm just going to open one when I feel like it. I'm 44 years old. I work hard and I come home. I know exactly what I've built and what it cost me, and I know what it's worth. Nobody in my family gets to tell me that those 2 things are in conflict. I'm not interested in that conversation anymore. There's a woman I've been talking to, nothing serious yet, just coffee a few times, conversation that doesn't feel like work. She asked me once why I got into construction. I said because I like making things that last. She said that made sense. She said she could see that in me. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. But I thought about it for the rest of the day. The floor in the main bedroom is still reclaimed white oak. I kept it. Some people thought I should rip it up, start over, but that seemed like the wrong lesson to take from all of this. I laid that floor. It's good work. The fact that someone walked across it without caring doesn't make it less so. It's mine. I built it. It stays. I've had a lot of time to think about cause and effect. Not in any grand philosophical way, just the plain mechanical kind. You do a thing, and then another thing follows from it. Sometimes the gap between those 2 events is years long, and that's what makes it hard to see clearly while you're still living inside it. My brother made choices. So did my wife. So did my father, in his own quieter way, and so did I, including the years I told myself that working hard was the same thing as being present, that building something solid was a form of love that didn't need to be explained. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. I've stopped needing a verdict on that. What I know is this. The people who betrayed me didn't do it because I was gone too much. They did it because they decided to. There's a difference between a reason and an excuse. And I spent about 3 weeks in the early days confusing those two things, sitting in that diner with cold coffee, running through every decision I'd ever made and trying to find the one that caused all of this. That's a trap. I walked out of it eventually. The tricky thing about integrity is that nobody hands it to you. You build it the same way I built that, floor one board at a time, on your knees, in a room nobody else is watching. My brother and I grew up in the same house, learned from the same father, had the same chances. He made different decisions than I did. That's not complicated. It's just true. What I had to work harder to understand was my father. He's not a dishonest man. He's a man who loved his younger son in a way that had no edges, no conditions. And when that love bumped up against something ugly, he flinched. He softened the truth to protect something familiar. I understand that impulse. I don't respect it, but I understand it. It is a kind of courage that parents don't always develop. The courage to look at their own child clearly, without the filter of all that early love. My father didn't have it when I needed him to. He's working on it now. So am I. The resilience part. That took longer than I expected. I thought I was tough because I'd built a company, worked winters on open job sites, handled hard things without falling apart. But that's physical toughness. The other kind is slower. It's getting up on a Tuesday morning when nothing is urgent and nothing is wrong, and you still feel the weight of it. And choosing to go to work anyway. Choosing to lay new floors in an empty room on a Saturday because the work itself is still worth doing. Choosing to have coffee with someone new and let the conversation be easy without bracing for what comes next. I didn't rebuild because I'm strong. I rebuilt because standing still wasn't an option I was willing to take. There's a difference. One is a quality you have. The other is a decision you make. The house is quiet most evenings now. I've gotten used to it in a way I didn't expect to, not as a consolation, but as something with actual value. I know what I did to earn this space. I know what it cost. Nobody can walk through my front door and tell me I don't belong here. That's enough. For now, that's more than enough.